looking forward to digging into the topic, really thinking about generative AI and the impact on the revenue organization, specifically as we want to talk about coaching and the sales manager rep role and so on. But for any of you who know me, you know that we are first going to start with data because I love my data. And I always usually have some in my back pocket. So I was fortunate enough to be able to run an amazing study this summer as part of the CXO, co-CEO of Mediafly, where we surveyed over 300 revenue leaders across North America. And we wanted to really get to the heart of how these leaders were adapting to the tremendous amount of change that's out there, whether it's tech consolidation, whether it's how buyers are buying, whether it's the rapid commercialization of generative AI that happened since November 2022. We got some really interesting answers. And so I want to start with the CXO's role because I think we're at an interesting inflection point sort of generationally in the workforce. As you all know, and I've been talking about this since 2017, so I'm going to talk about it again, but the workforce demographics have shifted, and we've seen that shift now where over 60% of today's global workforce is a digital native, which means there's a proclivity to use innovative technologies, a comfort level, and an expectation, both on the buy side and the sell side, that the best technologies are going to be available to support key processes and activities that happen across that entire cycle. And so as I think about the CXO role, and maybe that's really a nice place to get started with the group before we dive in a little bit more deeply. But when I think about the CXO, technology budgets are increasing. We're seeing that happen on the revenue side, like it did with marketing, close to 10 years ago. We're now starting to see it happen on the HR side. That's probably a different webinar, Julia. But you're seeing the realignment of sales headcount to technology spend. We're seeing CXOs being expected to deliver predictable, efficient growth, right? We're well beyond growth at all costs. So the days of solving quota problems with another human quota is well behind us. So now CXOs really need to think about innovative technologies, automation, AI, which has been around for some time, and now generative AI as another important arrow in the quiver. And these execs, folks like ourselves, need to be quite conversant.
I'm going to throw a wet blanket on this whole AI thing. So I think I use this quote a lot when I talk to people about technology, and the quote or the equation is, and this is Michael Hammer's equation, it's not mine, but it's NT plus OP equals EOP, which means new technology plus old process equals expensive old process.
Well, I don't think any of us can disagree with you, right?
I think that, in my opinion, and I've said this before in this forum, but Salesforce is the worst thing that's ever happened to salespeople in the history of the planet. It is a tremendous waste of time, energy, effort, and you're asking the worst people to enter data into a database in which you're going to use to make decisions. So to me, when we talk about use case, the very first use case is, how do I replace the CRM with and something that can be automatically generated and entered, where we're not requiring the salespeople to enter the data. So how do you scrape emails and enter that stuff in? How do you keep your calendar placed? How do you use the calendars and things like that to schedule meetings and things like that? So the number one for me is like, how do we get CRMs to suck less using this technology? And we're never going to get them to suck zero, because they are always going to be bad. But we can get them to suck a little bit less. The other thing that I want to say is that I believe that everybody is moving too fast on adopting these tools without understanding what the implications are. And it's like, it reminds me of a quote from The Incredibles. When everybody is super, nobody is. If you remember that movie. So if everybody has these tools and everybody is sending this stuff out, as was mentioned on this, we're already getting fatigue. Would you say 70% is getting fatigue on these emails? That you're if you follow the leader, you follow the leader. And if everybody's doing it and then you're doing it, you're not any different than anybody else. And I'm actually looking at so one of the things is I'm starting a consulting company kind of on the side to take a look at how to actually adopt AI properly in a business. Now, not just in the revenue generation, but across the areas, and kind of more so on the use cases at work are more in the BPO kind of, the process improvement and automation.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no substitute. There never will be a substitute for human interaction. And if you want your sales team to stand out, throw this shit out the door and go and call people and get in front of people and make appointments and meet people and build relationships. Using this AI crutch is just a recipe for disaster for me. And I feel like, what you're going to have is a whole bunch of noise that you're going to be, part of, and the guy who does it differently and makes that appointment and goes and takes that guy out to lunch again is going to be the one that's going to get the sale, and not your endless amounts of bots and stuff.
The second use case is a marketing one. We do something similar to what Tom said. We take our messaging framework, which we build by persona, and we feed that to the engine. And then we say, can you give me an outline of a webcast on this topic? Can you give me the outline of a infographic? Can you give me the outline? So we ask it to get us started so that our content engine can build things within the structure of our messaging framework. So they're not going off and we're not having to fix, the consistency or inconsistency of something, and we can spit out a lot more content. Now, we're purposeful about the content plan. We have a content, strategy. What do we want to build, around what, for whom, and why? We don't just randomly create content. So that gets to the point of, if you're not thinking about what you're going to use your technology for, and you're not purposeful in how you're going to do it, it's not going to be effective. It's going to be these random acts of things. So we try to be very purposeful. We also always require subject matter experts to review all content. So, generative AI can take you sideways and say stuff about you that you just, isn't true, right? It would be great if it was true, but it's not true in our case, right? So you have to be careful, and you want the tone, and you want the voice to be authentic. Every company should have their own tone and voice, just like they have their own culture, and you have to be authentic to that. So you have to have people checking for tone and tenor and stuff like that, the voice, to make sure it's in keeping with your brand and all that. So that's the second big area that we use it for. And then one thing we're just starting to play with is analysis of data. Mm-hmm. And what can it do with my data? Because I'm pretty good with the spreadsheet. I'm pretty good with pivot tables. I'm pretty good with, sort of that. But what can it do that I can't do? I've seen what it does on the forecast side, to be able to take all the interactive data and say whether the confidence of a forecast or not, and give a, digital engagement forecast, which is beautiful. That's great. I want to see that on the marketing side. I'd like to see more analysis of engagement and, what messages are working, what aren't, instead of us doing it manually. I'd really like to see that.
And you might be confident in your own information, but I'm not necessarily confident in the information the rest of y'all uploaded to the group project. We've all been on group projects. We know that one person that, didn't quite do it right. But you're going to suddenly, and the Gen AI doesn't get it. The other one that gets me, because we're talking about all these coaching things that are going to listen to people talking. And I love that idea, except that if I had turned on one of the, if we all had our 15 different, AI tools running for this call, and I finished the call, it'd say, you never engaged with Julie or Justin. You never spoke up. You have a problem here. And so then what do? You need a human to code it. And I've been involved in psychology research. And psychology research, the biggest thing, it's amazing statistics based on human coding of interactions. And you've got to make sure, if you're going to trust the AI to code an introverted head of IT who's one of 5 seats on a Zoom pitch to a company of enterprise software, and it says that that introverted head of IT never spoke up. And if you don't have a way of saying, yeah, actually, no, that guy, he never speaks up on a Zoom call, but he will pick up the phone and rip my head off on a one-on-one to my cell that is not recorded. So let's not get too excited about some of these solutions. Now, I think it's amazing for helping me with my data, or like, please fill in the information. One of my favorite tests is, do we have a mutual NDA with this prospect yet? That used to be my biggest way I called out a forecast. Because if you haven't gone through their legal team just to get an NDA, you have no idea what contracts are going to be like, which is going to kill this deal that you think you're going to get here at the end of April. Not happening. You don't even have an NDA yet. AI can help with that just by going through of like, nobody's uploaded the NDA. And even better, I would love it to look at how many red lines were there in the NDA.
I always thought about, like, people join companies, they leave managers. And that human connection makes all the difference in the world. I wonder if one day in the future, we will have the rules of thumb that we are used to as experienced managers somehow exposed to our team. Literally 30 plus years ago, I was designing airplanes and wrote AI to do that. And there was this thing that at the time was state of the art, now is like child's play, called an expert system. It was designed specifically for this. It wouldn't do all the predictive AI and Gen AI that we have today. It would encode the rules of thumb, the heuristics. And I think that'll be another level that might have a much bigger impact on managers beyond the automation and the scale that we've been talking about. But I don't see any of that today.
Empowering and fueling connection and engagement and inspiration is an area that I think AI can be used at really, really well. However, we find a lot of organizations and a lot of sellers not providing the AI with the intelligence and the data that's needed. So they're doing the outreach at scale, but missing the mark, right? So it's bad practices at scale when it comes to these engagements. And that prompted Forrester's research, I'm sure in this area, 70% of B2B buyers say that they're already, and we're just scratching the surface with it, negatively impacted by generic AI. They're already turned off by a lot of these practices.